Now that we went through data types, the next set of lessons that we're going to be going through is collections. Collections are either lists, sets, or maps, and for this one we'll be focusing on lists first. Lists, or arrays, do not have a specific data type and can be any data type. What I mean by that is that a list could be a list of integers, strings, accounts, objects, you name it. It just means that it is a container for multiple items. We've only been working through one singular set of items, and this one is going to be a holder of multiple items. Since Apex is strongly typed, lists still have to denote what the data type is, such as, let's say you want to have a list of integers for 1, 5, 1, 6, 8, 9, 20. First, you would create a list. So in this case, let me do a list of integers. Let me clear out this as well. So I'm going to do list integer, and we're going to do integer list equal to new list integer. So let's stop really quickly right there. So as you can note with the syntax here, I'm stating that this is going to be a list of integers, so I have the data type still in there for that list, and then it's going to be, I'm just naming the list integer list, and then I am instantiating a new list of integers, or declaring a new list of integers. So then if I were to, let's say, system.debug integer list, and then we run that, I'm going to see within the debug I just have this parentheses, empty parentheses. Parentheses are just denoting that it's a list, and then it's empty because there isn't anything in there. Now what I can do is there is a method within the list, so if you were to search list class Apex, it'll come up with the developer documentation. So if I were to use add, and add takes in an integer, so let's say I wanted to add 1, and really the add takes in whatever the data type is. 5, and we'll do 1 again. Oh, actually, I'll system debug this first, so that way we can see it being added as well. And this is kind of a long way to do it. If you're adding to a list and you already know exactly what you're going to be adding, this is kind of a long way to do it with the adds already there. But we can see we have that list that's empty, and then after the adds we have 1, 5, and 1 within our list. Now, like I said, that was kind of a longer way to do it. Since we already know the values that we want to add, a different way that we can do it is we can instantiate it integer list with the values already in there. Okay, so this way, with the curly braces, what this is going to do is it's going to add whatever I put in here, it will automatically put that into the list. And then I just use with lists, the separator, like I can see right here, the separator is a comma. So I do 1, 5, 1, what did I say, 6, 8, 9, 20. And then if I do a debug, I can see right here, everything was added already in there. Then what I can also do is I can also add another, I can add to another list. So let's say I had a different list that I wanted to add all the integer lists into. We'll just call it integer list 2. And I can do new list, integer, and then it's a little bit different because right here I'm using the parentheses, and then I add in the integer list. So what this is going to do is this is going to create integer list 2, and it is going to instantiate it with this set of, I'll just take out the debugs, the set of values. There's also a different way to do it as well, which is we saw the add, which is adding a single value. You can also do add all, which is what you can use for adding in a list as well. Okay, so now there's two different ways in order to add, and let me just debug, show the first way. Should probably bring it in here. So I can see I have the list here doing it this way. Let's see if I just comment out the, actually we'll just bring this debug here, and then remove the integer list here. Oh shoot, I don't want to add an empty list to it. There. Right. And I can see there's a different way to add the list. So another way to add or to create a list, or in this case it's more, this way is not very common, but in case you see it, it's how to create a list as well. This is much more within the Java realm. So I can have integer and then show the square brackets. So these are going, this in essence shows that it's a list, or it would be an array. And then, so I can do new list. Actually, I could do new list as well, but we'll do new integer. And then we'll have these values right up here. Alright, and then system debug integer list. So this is another way to declare and instantiate a list. It's using square brackets instead, which is the same thing, but it's just not very common. Now let's talk about this list, specifically indexes. The index is the location of where a specific element is within the list, with the first index being 0. So let's say we'll go with integer list, just to keep things a little bit cleaner. Okay, so we have the integer list. Now I'm creating the list with the set of numbers or set of integers. And when I'm talking about the indexes, each value has an index within the list, and it starts with 0. So the first one, this value of 1 is 0, 5 is 1, this one is 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6. So even though that there are 7 values, the index number, the top index number is 6, because we're starting with 0. Now what we want to be able to do is, let's say we want to get a single value. Well, we can use that index number that we know. Let's say we want to get the first value. We can grab that by using the square brackets within, so we have that list, and then square bracket, and then the index. So we're getting that value. Now, let's say we want to get the fourth value. Well, the fourth one is the third index, because we're starting with 0, so then 3. So we can see here, it ran, I can see the debug 1, which is that value, and then the fourth one, which would be 6. It is 6. Now let's say we have a list that we wanted to get the last value from. A different way to do that is if we use integer list, and then we go integer list dot size. So within lists, the list class, there's a size method. The size method, what that does is that's going to get the number of values within that list. And so there are 7 values in there, so the size is going to be 7. However, the index, because it starts at 0, there's the last index is 6. So then if I run this, everything works out correctly, and then the last value is going to be 20. Let's say that I don't do -1, so the size is going to be 7. We're going to be looking for the 7th index, which there isn't one. And when we do that, why didn't it run it? Oh, I just didn't do this correctly. There. So I can see we have an exception, list index out of bounds. So there is no index of 7. There are quite a few other methods within the list class as well. Another thing about lists I would like to show is more shorthand accessing S-object values from a list. So instead of talking about integers, let's switch this to be accounts. Let's say we have an account, and I want to get the name value of one of those accounts. I have account list, equal to new list account, and then let's say I want to instantiate it with, we want a new account. Name is going to be, we'll do account list test, and then shipping city going to equal to New York City. Okay, so then this is going to be the first, so I'm creating a new account S object with these values, and then this is it's within a list, so I can also use the comma and create another one. So I'm going to do another account. We'll call it account because I'm feeling very creative. Account list 2. And then shipping city. And do New York City. Okay. Now if I debug, we'll do the size first. So I created the list, and then I should have 2 accounts. And that's what it shows within the debug. I see a debug of 2. Now let's say we wanted to get the name in a variable of the first account. So I do, let's call it account list test name. So that test account that we created, I'm going to do the account list. And then just like what we did with the integer list, we can grab that first index, and this is going to be, because it's a count, it's going to be the count, and then I can grab the name. Account.debug, and then account is test name. So now the debug should have the name of account list test. Oh, I need to bring this in. And we can see that debug of 2 for the list size, and then test list 1, or the account list for the first one. Then again, if I wanted to get the second one, since that is the index number is 1, I can see account list test 2. So now, the other thing that I can do is, because a list can be any data type, I can have this list be an S object, or a list of S objects. So I'm just going to call it S object list, a new list S object. So we'll create this new account right here, bring that in, and then let's say we want to create a new contact and have a contact within here as well. So the contact has a first name, and we'll do a test, and the last name, contact. Then I can debug, and then we'll just debug the list to show the list. I can see within the debug we have a list with a count, with the account list test, New York City, and then we can see in a contact with the first name, test, and contact. I can also have a list of objects, and because an object is anything, I can put anything in there. So what I'm going to do is, instead of typing everything, I'm just going to change this S object to object. And then I will add, so we have an account, we have a contact, let's put in an integer and a string. Hello world. And we'll call it object list and run that. And now we can see the account. we have the contact, and then we have the integer and the string of hello world. And so that's to show that you can have a list of anything that you want in there. And it all depends on what you decide to have the data type be of that list.